So nice to have us all gathered for a welcome ceremony in February. There's a German word that I love, and the word is Zeitgeist, and it means the kind of spirit of the times. And I think as you hear me speak to the welcome ceremony today, it will occur to you that we are all thinking along similar lines. Kavira and Elliot, I really enjoyed what you had to say, and I think you'll note that we've been thinking along really similar lines. Like most all of you, I received the welcome ceremony as part of UWC-USA's traditions. And like all traditions, whether we're born into them or adopt them as our own upon entry into a community, the welcome ceremony left me with two things when I first got here. First, it left me with pride at belonging to such a wonderfully diverse and colorful school community. I immediately wanted to share it with family and friends. And second, it left me with questions about what the ceremony said about our community, focused as it is on a heavy dose of nationalistic pride. Occasionally, I've shared my reflections with some of my colleagues and with some students, but I'd never really reflected much further than that. And then came COVID. And because we couldn't hold the ceremony in the fall when it has traditionally been held, we find ourselves having a welcome ceremony halfway through the year. And this really got me thinking, what is a welcome ceremony? And why is it important enough to have even in times of disruption, like a global pandemic? Even at times that seem strange, like halfway through a year. At UWC-USA, the welcome ceremony is an opportunity for the second years to welcome their first years. Traditionally, it has followed the matriculation ceremony, when first years call on one another and call one another into community, establishing themselves as a class of permanent members of UWC-USA and the UWC movement. The matriculation ceremony focuses us on unity, becoming a class, becoming a community. It acknowledges that when we call one another's names, we acknowledge the other as someone who belongs, as someone who is part of our community. But how do our second years welcome the first years, which of course is what the welcome ceremony is all about? They put on their traditional national costumes, and that's always a challenge for our host country USA citizens to figure out every year what the USA national costume is. And they parade their country's flags for all of our community to see. It makes for a beautiful display and a good deal of healthy national pride. And yes, I think there is such a thing as healthy national pride. But we'd have to be willfully ignorant if we didn't acknowledge that the beautiful display and healthy national pride hide other things just beneath the surface. The beautiful flags of our respective countries symbolize the unity of our nations, but they also symbolize, as our students just pointed out, and because of the history of nations, imperialism and colonization and claims of supremacy and oppression and even genocide. They symbolize a healthy sense of belonging to the first people with whom we relate and claim solidarity. But they also represent the borders that say no to immigrants looking for a better life and yes to conformity at all costs. What do we do in the face of such contradictory meanings in the flags we wave and the costumes we wear? How do we reconcile what our flag means for us as individuals proud of our heritage and homeland, and what it means for others who have been hurt by having those flags planted on their soil and then removed, only to create chaos that is still being worked through today? How do we wear with pride our national dress when it may symbolize oppression at home or conformity that excludes people we love and respect? These questions aren't easy to answer, and part of the kind of rigorous education that we're offering here at UWC-USA is learning to ask those hard questions, to answer them for oneself time and again, and determine which answers resonate with our heads as well as our hearts, which answers withstand the test of time, and which answers are a call to action, whether to defend what has been or to work toward what isn't yet. From this point of view, from the point of view of our existence as a diverse community dedicated to making education a force for peace and sustainability, or as I like to think of it, a force for the common good, a display of flags and costumes that calls us to question the knowledge we've inherited through the eyes of the other, that's a good thing. Let the beautiful flags wave, but let us consider their multiple meanings on the surface and beneath the surface. Let our costumes flow, displaying the colors and patterns of our cultural lives. But let's also consider whether they add to or subtract from the dignity of those who cannot or do not conform to the norms they represent or even impose. Maybe a welcome ceremony makes more sense at the beginning of a year, when a community is first coming together. But maybe the disruption caused by COVID, which finds us enjoying a welcome ceremony more than halfway through our year together at UWC-USA, maybe that welcome ceremony, this special welcome ceremony, is an opportunity to look beneath the surface of our traditions, to question them anew, and to be stronger as a community for having done so. Thank you to everybody who made today's welcome ceremony a reality, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from all of you as we all process outside to celebrate the welcoming of our first years and the national pride and openness to the other of our second years.